Awesome. So, Alyssa, welcome. How are you feeling? How you doing?
Good, I'm doing good.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having
This
me.
is awesome, right? Having young people here, motivated. I'm so grateful that she, is willing. This is not easy, right? Sometimes it's hard to come and just talk in front of people, right? But
No,
you're
yeah.
able to do it, so that's a big blessing. Um, I think everybody knows her, or almost everybody knows about you, but just tell us a little bit, just for those who are watching also online, that maybe they don't really know you. I want to know a little bit about your upbringing. Did you grow up in church? Did you have that experience when you were a kid, or how was it as you growing up?
Well, I didn't really grow up that much in church. I was really in and out. My dad is Catholic and my mom is Christian, so I was in and out of both churches. I was the type of kid that you would see me sleeping in the middle of the sermon or in the worship on my mom's lap or on my dad's lap. Like, I wouldn't really be that interested. But then there was a moment in my life where, my mom, I grew up with a single mom. So there was a moment where I wanted to pray for my mom. Me and my grandma wanted to pray for my mom. Like, I wanted my mom to have a husband so bad. I was like, she's lonely. I want her to have a husband already. And I was like 8. And I prayed with my grandma. And a couple months later, she met my stepdad, Marcos. And then
Look at that, the power of prayer.
and then a year later, she got married with him, and I was so happy that, it showed me that God, he works, but he works with his timing and his timing only. And I asked, and he received. And when that happened, I got really interested, and my stepdad started showing us the church, and he started taking us to church. He started taking us here to Arise. It was called, I forgot what it was called before, Ignite before. And I started falling in love with the people here, and those people used their jobs that God gave them and led me to Christ. And I fell in love with God. Like, it was just something so special to me. And, that's when I started choosing God and I started walking with him.
That's awesome, right? Listen, it's amazing to see someone as young, passionate about Christ. So I know you were sharing, I don't know if you remember exactly, you shared a couple of things with me. What was it, or when was that moment that really got you close to God? Because as you mentioned, right, sometimes people that grew up in church, kids that grew up in church, they just go because of their parents, and they don't have any option, they sleep, or they don't really care about. But when did it click for you and you were like, man, I just have this passion for God, and because you're one of those person that loves to come to church, loves to worship, love to sing, and I'm an eyewitness of that, right? So when was it that you felt that passion for God? When did this started?
This is gonna be kind of weird, but it's kind of when I found out, life is kind of hard. You can't do life without God. And I tried doing it for a very long time. And I would think like, oh, I can do this by myself. Oh, I don't need God for this. It's fine. I can do it on my own. And I kept falling and failing. And it was just, without God, I wasn't doing very well mentally. And, I was missing something. And with that, I was like, you know what, I need God. Like, I started hearing worship music, I started praying, and those things are great. But something that really connected me even closer to God, I started writing to him. I write to him about my day, and it's something very intimate that I have, like an intimate relationship with him, that it's like writing, one of those notes and you send it out to someone from far, but I'm writing it like with him and I'm here talking to him too. So it's something, that helped me grow. And I noticed that I started, a weight got off my shoulders when I started writing to him, hearing worship music, talking to him. It was like all my burdens, all that pain that I had, everything that I was worrying about was gone. It always comes back, that always happens, but I always see myself reminding myself that God is there, that he is here next to me, and he's always going to be next to me, and he's always going to help me out of that, out of that pain that I have.
Wow, awesome. So your life experience, realizing how tough life can be, got you to the point, hey, I really need God. That's amazing for you to, at your age, to realize that, and instead of well, some of the times people go to their friends, or they might dive into other, maladaptive behaviors and things like that. But you chose God, so that's incredible. So let me ask you, how is the Holy Spirit using you right now? What do you see that God is using you?
I think he's using me a lot in my family, especially in my dad's side. My dad was never really that close to God. Like, he would go to church, he's Catholic, but he didn't really know who God was. And I would talk to my dad. He was kind of sad that, I didn't really choose to be Catholic. I chose, to be Seventh-day Adventist, and he wasn't very happy about it. But later on, I started talking to him more about God and why I chose this path in my life. And later on, we started praying together. He actually downloaded the Bible app, and if we do devotionals together, and we talk about God sometimes, and he'll send me Bible verses, I'll send him Bible verses, and that was something that never happened before. My dad was not like that, and I'm there for my sisters too, who they don't really go to church, and they don't know who God is, and whenever I see them down and in pain, about like their own little things, because, sisters have, their little fights sometimes. But whenever I see them down about, something else, and they're like, why? I tell them, like, there's a God there that loves you. And, I would read a Bible verse with them or do a devotional with them. And it's honestly been helping. I send them Bible verses here and there sometimes, and they like reading it. And they're not as bored, sometimes they find it boring, but it's growing on them little by little. And I think that's something that God is showing me, that I'm there for my family.
Wow, look at that. Amazing, right? Being a pillar of faith for a family. That's amazing. I love hearing that. And can you share with us, how have you felt the Holy Spirit changing your life? Because it doesn't mean that you're perfect, because, we still have our shortcomings, but have you felt God change you somehow, and where have you seen that in your life?
I think God has opened my eyes a lot. Before, I didn't know what was right or wrong, and now I am, I'm trying to walk with Christ, so I'm trying to do everything right. Obviously, I'm not the most perfect person, so I will fall. But I notice myself that whenever I'm down or whenever something happens, I will think of God. That's the first thing that will come in my head. It's not like, oh, I need to say something, or I will think of God. And I will call and I will pray like to God that, to help me when I'm down. And it's really something that never happened to me before. I was not like that. Before, I would just like drown in my sorrow, like sitting on my bed, like crying. And now I talk to God, and he's like, let me take this away from you. Let me help you out of this burden. So I think it's something like that really changed me.
Well, that's amazing, right? Why don't you give it up for Alyssa? Thank you for sharing your testimony with us. Appreciate you so much.